Everybody knows about the miracle on the Hudson, the U.S. Air flight a few days ago that took off from LaGuardia, or was it JFK? It was the New York airport, LaGuardia, I believe. And within minutes, ran into a flock of geese that took out both engines and sent it on a potential disastrous death spiral. But the fast actions and the tremendous heroism and bravery of the crew, and especially the pilot, safely landed that Airbus into the Hudson River, saving the over 150 people on board that plane. There was not one fatality and I think a very, very minor injury. But everybody who was on that flight felt what this video is about today, and that's near-death experiences. Has any of you ever felt like they saw their life pass before their eyes, or felt what looked death right in the face and lived to tell about it? And I've had a few of those experiences, and I like to think that near death equals more life. And I always talk about on my websites, Live Life 365, about how we should live our life every day, how we should never take life for granted, how we should do everything we can to make each day special, to make each day full and vibrant, to have purpose in everything we do, to live life 365, every day, every way. And sometimes, hey, life is boring at times. Life is very routine. Most jobs are repetitive. Even great jobs that make a lot of money, even if you're a professional athlete, it's very repetitive. From everything from the highest jobs to even school teachers, it's repetitive, to even doing simple piecework jobs. There's a lot of mundane, trite, routine activities in life. And sometimes we get bogged down by that and we forget that each day is special and a gift that should be celebrated. But then when we see things like the flight, the miracle on the Hudson, or any of our own personal brushes with near death, it comes back the importance of life and the frailty of life and the precariousness of the fact that we're not going to be here forever, and that some of us may not be here tomorrow. You know, I went to a funeral just recently, and it comes back then when you see the loss of life and the celebration of a good life, or the tragedy of losing someone way too early. We need reminders sometimes, and it's a good thing. But has anyone had a near-death experience? Well, I had a couple of them. I wouldn't say they were near-death, but I would say that they were close calls. And one of them I recall, as a young kid, I was probably 10, 11, 12 years old. And I just read about this time of year with the frozen ponds, of them fishing some bodies out of a pond that had frozen over, and then someone walked across and fell in, and they couldn't get back up into the hole that they fell into, and they froze to death and drowned. Hypothermia, drowning, horrible way to go. But I was a kid, probably 10, 12 years old. Me and my buddy were cutting across the school pond. It's behind the school, the elementary school, and on the other side was woods. It was surrounded by woods, and you would get to the other side and you would crawl up the hill, and then you would be in like a local commercial area where you could go to a store and buy some stuff. Instead of taking the long way around, we would cut across the pond in the winter when it was frozen. It would probably save us all of 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. But it was also, it's fun to slip on the ice and walk across. And we did it all the time. Well, we made sure it was frozen, and frozen solid, but sometimes it was either during the thaw period or when it wasn't quite cold enough to freeze all the way through. It could be dangerous. And, well, long story short, I was walking across and I went under. Besides being cold as heck, you felt that panic. But as a kid, I don't recall as a kid thinking that, hey, this is it, I'm going to die. I was just thinking that, man, that's cold. Let me get back up. Well, I found my way back up through the hole, so it wasn't like it was a struggle. It was tough to get back up on the ice and crawl out, because the ice was cracking and melted. So every time I moved forward, it would crack some more until I got to a more solid place, and then my buddy pulled me out. And then after that, it was just laughter and then being uncomfortable because I had wet clothing and, obviously it was wintertime and cold. At the time, I thought nothing of it because I was a dumb kid. Now, as a dumb adult, years later, I think back that, Mike, you could have died. Just as easily you could have died. And it's the same time, I guess, when you're riding on a bike or a skateboard without a helmet, all the times you've spilled and fallen over, were one of those unlucky quirks that could have been a near death. But another time that is very specific in my head, and one that I'm ashamed of, is when I was in my 20s and I was drinking, and I drank a lot back in the day. I was a heavy drinker, but I usually didn't operate a motor vehicle when I was drunk, or if I did, I was fine. And I'm not saying that it's okay to ever drink and drive. It's not. It's appalling. You should never do it. You should never drive a car with anger or alcohol or speeding, because those create just as much problems as just being high or drunk. But I was drinking, and I was probably drank too much. But I was also tired, and I was driving home, and this was back when I lived back east. And I'm driving home, trying to get home. It's pretty late in the morning, early in the morning, late at night. And the next thing I remember is I must have fallen asleep. And the next thing I remembered was the slap of tree branches across the windshield. And I popped my eyes open, and I put it back on the freeway. I was on the freeway, 50, 60 miles an hour. And that's one where I'm thinking to myself, wow, my guardian angel was looking out for me. God was looking out for me. And at the time, I just slapped myself in the face and said, what's wrong with you? Get home. And I didn't think it was that much near death, but as you get older, you look back at it and you said, thank God, like I said, the guardian angel was watching over me. Somebody was watching over me. I was very lucky. But the more I think about that as an adult, I know that I escaped death then. I escaped death when I fell in that pond. And there was a couple other times in cars that we probably escaped death. We probably do it all the time. Never been stuck up in a plane where the pilot says, get ready for emergency landing. But I'll tell you this, everybody on that plane, the one common thing I saw from all of them was a giddiness that they were still alive, an elation that they looked at the Grim Reaper in the face and they lived to tell about it. But they were all exalted. They were thrilled. They were just relieved. I mean, they were crying. They were very emotional, but they were living their life. And the reminder we all have is that we can get that same feeling about life without having to think about death or having to stare death down. So I'd love to know if there's any near-death experiences in your life and how they changed your life. And always remember that you should live your life every single day, no matter what, but sometimes we just need a reminder. And that's my reminder. Peace.